I know Mike Cernovich's sources. The government knows his sources, so it's not a secret to them. But it's obviously who's been retweeting him and saying he's a great guy and retweeting our stuff. There are people very close to the president who are for real. Hell, it's not a secret. It's his sons, especially Donald Jr. He's a total patriot. And there's a bunch of other people. So Trump is for real, but he's being pulled by every side. And there are folks inside the White House threatening nuclear option to release information if they continue this. But there is an attempt to have a soft coup against the president. What do we do about that?
Well, and we go back once again. This revolution was started with a coup and then a counter coup, and right now they have a soft coup where they've taken over, and now I think Eric Jr. has to come into the forefront. I've repeatedly said that Jared has to leave. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Chinese. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Israeli family, the Steinmetz, who were already indicted for diamond smuggling and illegal activities. I'm saying this to the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. He knows very well that this family, the Kushner family and the Steinmetzes, are totally corrupt. We cannot have that in the White House. This is not a nepotism republic. This is a republic that fought its way by people like you, me, and others who went to war. Kushner never went to war. The Israelis never went to war with us. Mossad was 9/11. The Israelis were involved in 9/11. We have the neocons coming back. I am warning the administration again and again. I did not take the time and the effort and the liberty and the risk that others are willing to do to bring back the pathetic neocons like Elliot Abrams or John Bolton or any one of these morons that you're putting in there. If McMaster doesn't understand how he came to power because Tom Clancy and I gave him money in Armcath. He came to power because he sat on the boards of other companies. Mr. Mattis was on the board of Dynacorp. He was on the board of another company. If the generals really think they are that great, they better look into the mirror. They have never won a war. They have never taken down a regime, and they have failed repeatedly in executing any military action. This has been our history before Korea, before Vietnam. We lost 55,000 men because the generals were incompetent, ignorant, and they had a dereliction of duty. I go back to McMaster. This is a dereliction of duty. Anything he wants to do now, and a force structure, bringing out the soldiers into North Korea and thinking that you can preempt an attack on North Korea when they're 30 miles away from Seoul, is both idiotic and inept. At the same time, continuing a war for 15 years in Afghanistan, where thousands of our Marines were killed in Helmand Province, and then putting more Marines in is nothing more than a barbaric stupidity. At the same time, putting in artillery and howitzers into Syria when you have no idea who the Alawites are, you have no idea how many Christians that the Bashar family's protecting, millions of them, and you're going to do a regime change because you have some moron named Pompeo who's head of the CIA because he was #1 at West Point but had never been in intelligence, never been overseas, really never understood anything except...
Doc, we're almost out of time. You got to come back in the next few days to really flesh this out, because I promise you go to calls and we have a Roger Stone with some breaking news. But just in the minute or two we have left, I love what Trump's doing, transferring power from the globalists back. He's doing a lot of great things in the economy, TPP, we've talked about it, so many good things. So I think he's for real. We know he's for real. There is an internal struggle. The listeners need to go out to these rallies, to send letters to the president, to call into C-SPAN, to call into talk radio, to create the buzz that we didn't elect Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, and that we, want the president to do something about the war on the press, the war on the liberty movement that is taking place. But more importantly, our listeners need to support your work, my work, and others' work as an act of resistance financially in the face of the attacks, the lawsuits, the kicking us off Google ads, you name it. Because, again, the attacks are intensifying. We're a beta test. And if they're able to shut down InfoWars, the sky's the limit.
That's correct. I do agree with you, and they won't shut you down. They're not that stupid. If they're that stupid, then they're self-destructive. But if that happens, we will do an alternative channel. Don't worry, Alex.
Well, I mean, obviously, they got to kill me to totally shut us down. We're only growing. It's backfiring. What are they going to do then if it's backfiring?
No, they're not going to kill you because they don't want you dead. That would make you a martyr. They're not that stupid to make somebody a martyr, but they are that incompetent to think that they can put buttons on you, on Riley, on the Fox News, and on the other people who were involved, and then think that they could put pressure. Trump is not an innocent man. He has to grow up, he has to focus, and he has to be disciplined. In other words, there's no
Hold on, do a minute or two more on Trump, then we'll go to the next guest in the calls. You know, I don't want to get dramatic here, but we are in a dramatic position, and I'm not that smart, but the media has made me an icon by this creature they've created, this straw man, editing clips out of context of what I say and do to make me look completely wild or crazy. And it's backfired. Just like Trump got in, despite all his warts, and we've all got warts, none of us are perfect, because the media is so loathed and hated, they threw everything they had at him, and the worse they got, the more successful he became. And it's the same thing with Le Pen or myself or anybody. They've indicted Le Pen for criticizing Islam. They've tried to kill Nigel Farage 3 or 4 different times. The police have said they've tried to kill him. Not the police tried to kill him, but the police have confirmed that they've taken his lug nuts off, cut his brake lines, suspicious stuff with the plane crash. The pilot's a vegetable, by the way. So Farage has got 9 lives. They're coming after us. And look, I'm not here bragging, saying, oh, I'm this great guy. I don't want to be a slave, but I've gotten a bunch of phone calls by major newspaper reporters. And they just say, Alex, you really ought to back off. You're going to be destroyed. I'm your friend. I care about you. And I say, is this a message? Well, yes, I care about you. Back down from doing the right thing. That's what the whole world's about, is not being scared and wanting to have industry and freedom again and decentralizing power. Because once you sell out, you'll sell out to anything. And then the worst people are in control, and whatever their wild dreams are dictate things. So you're in Venezuela, you're in North Korea, you're in Soviet Russia, sweetheart. And that's just not who I am. Not a hero, though. Let's get that straight. I am a self-preservationist. I take it personal people want to enslave us. I take it personal they want to set up one-sided trade deals and sell out our industry. They call that being, you know, an idiot or old-fashioned, or, you know, they sell being a sociopath nowadays as being smart and expedient and cool. No, it's called pissing in the pool. Everybody does it. The pool's ruined, folks, and I'm not a goody two-shoes. I'm not an idiot, and I know Pachinik isn't. We're about to go to Roger Stone and then your calls. It's just that Stephen Colbert, every night last week, and for the 2 weeks, every night opened his show lying about me with a comedy character. Very nasty, very mean. And they open up all these other shows lying, believing they're psychologically inoculating people to make me a joke. But all they're doing is sending people to find out what's on the show, and then they hear Roger Stone or Steve Pachinik or Ron Paul, who's on, Wednesday. Oh, by the way, we have a 30-hour broadcast that I should have mentioned last week, with big discounts, big specials, and a lot more, with a lot of special guest hosts to help raise more money for all the attacks and the things they've done to us, like kicking us off Google ads. That'll be $5 million this year we lose. Sounds like a lot of money. That's just the fun things. That's a loss, just on what we have for funding. And we brought in 3 point something last year. It was going to be $5 million this year, projected ads, going after our sponsors. Hell, taking my kids away from me. I mean, you know, it's really, really fun, let me tell you, to have the media all perched there, all lying on the front page of the paper, openly trying to manipulate the jury, just you name it, saying, you know, making it a referendum on my speech. That's what this has become, ladies and gentlemen. And so they pretty much have only energized me that much more to be more focused and fight harder. But they hate me because I have energy, I have life force, and I'm willing to stand up and not roll over. And they just want to intimidate everybody else by crushing me in public. They think you're cowards. People used to always accuse me. I'm going to say this in closing, then let Pachinik finish on saying, you know, Trump is not a man without sin. No, certainly not. Not a piker. But we believe he actually wants to empower the country and the people. I always get these questions of, you're fear-mongering to scare people. You must be helping the government, scaring people about how dangerous it is so they don't get involved. And I was later told, until about a decade ago, the government actually thought that's what I was doing, not on purpose, but leave him there. He says all the horrible stuff we do, and it just scares people that are awake. I thought you were like me. You wouldn't get scared. You'd get motivated to do something knowing there's no other hope but to take action. And you know what? They miscalculated. You were the people I thought you were. You're just like me, just like Pachinik. Anybody else? It's beaten in our heart. We're not going to be slaves. We take it personal. We're not going to be run over. And that's what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. You take the Armenian genocide. I just went and saw that movie, The Promise. Very accurate, very powerful. 2.5 hours long. I recommend you go see it. Ladies and gentlemen, the only Armenians that live were those that fought. You know, I'm not going to sit there while they first shut down the press, then they shut down the businesses, then they push you into the hills, then they kill you. That's what's happening. So, Pachinik, I'm ranting. Finish up, then we're going to, of course, Roger Stone, who's got breaking news. But they are coming after, obviously, everybody. And the listeners need to know, by coming after myself and others, they are coming after everybody because they fear the populist movement and focal points of it. And there is a civil war inside government, as you were saying. But just your brief message to Trump, thanks for holding while I broke that down, about saying, look, he's not without, sin. He needs to grow up. Go ahead.
The key here is he's got to get rid of Ivanka and he's got to get rid of Jared Kushner. If he wants to bring his family in, let him bring in Eric and Donald Jr. That's fine. They represented what we talked about. But let me tell you one statement. Hitler always said to his German public, who will ever remember the Armenian genocide? 1.3 million Armenians were killed by the Turks with the help of the Germans. And nobody ever remembered the Armenian genocide when the Jews were then rounded up, the Catholics were rounded up, the Protestants were rounded up, the Lutherans. Most people don't remember that the evisceration of Catholicism and Lutheranism started in the 1930s under Hitler. He could never have gotten to power if all the Lutheran priests had been there, or ministers, or even the Protestants. He put them all in Dachau. They were killed way before the Jews were. So I'm not saying we're in that situation. I am saying that America, stay alert, be prepared. The revolution's not over. Success is not given. You have to always earn that right to be an American. Our generals have not really understood that very well. They thought just by going into a battle and wearing a lot of fruit salad, that meant something to people like me and others who didn't need the uniform, who didn't need the fruit salad, who didn't need the pension, because we wanted to go out and fail and make ourselves a success in the American system, in the American democracy, and not sit on the board of directors of Northrop Grumman or L3 or SAIC. So it's time for us to continue and start breaking down the military-industrial complex and telling our generals, enough is enough. We're not sending our boys and girls and others to war so that they can be killed for your profits.
That's right. And it's part of the Nuremberg trials that Hitler, in 1939, when he started going into Poland, Czechoslovakia, and other areas starting World War II, he said, who would remember the Armenian genocide? And the Armenian genocide was used as the model in 1943 when Hitler started to fail. He said, just kill all the slave labor, Jews, you name it. They said, look.
Poles were killed, Catholics were killed. This was not just Jewish.
And he said, we got away with the Armenian genocide, so they're not going to care here. And that is a perfect example of what we're dealing with. So, again, when you said Trump's not perfect, obviously, do you think they've got him blackmailed?
I don't know whether they got it. I don't rationalize a man who's in power. He has to explain to me and to the American public what he's going to do, how he's going to accomplish it, and not become mercurial. He has to become the president of the United States, which means he has to focus, he has to be disciplined, he has to fire people, which he can't do, I understand from his past history, and he has to be able to stay on course. If he can't, then we'd be happy to replace him with someone else. But this can't continue.
Dr. Pachinik, stevepachinik.com. I'm going to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex, and God bless.
God bless you. Now we're going to go